As you continue to live on this big blue ball, you will encounter a plethora of people. Some people are tall, some are short, some are Republican, some are Democrat, some are purple, yellow, some are white. 99.9% of people are good people, regardless of how they vote, regardless if they worship this way, that way, they're Methodist, Baptist, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, agnostic, spiritual. They're fine. They're fine people. Nothing wrong with that. But there is a small percentage of the population who is absolutely and positively reprehensible. Those are elitist. These are individuals, and I will define the term and further dissect it momentarily, who, despite not being part of the club, they are not from Ivy League universities, they're not walking the red carpet, they've never served in government, they've never owned a business, they've never accomplished anything remarkable. They work average jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, working at a grocery store, a pizzeria, a hotel, a convenience store, regular people make the country work. But if you work in the same area as me, you drive a Nissan Rogue and you don't drive a Lamborghini, you're not an elite. You act like you're part of the bourgeoisie, but you're really not. These people ooze superiority. They're condescending and they talk down to you. You guys work in the same places, worship in the same places. Some of them, unfortunately for me, and maybe you, are in your own family. Oh my God, can you believe him? He thinks he knows everything. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What a poor peasant compared to me. I am super intellectual. If only he knew. And as a man, I'm direct with people. Doesn't mean you have to be an a-hole. You can be respectful, you can be polite, you can be collegial, but be direct. As a man, say what you mean what you say. But these elitists are passive-aggressive. Let me give you a couple of examples. I'm not going to name specific names. I was texting an elitist, and I stated, I think it would be cool one day to own a small business. Kind of have a family business, pass that to the next generation, and be able to get my own capital, make a product or a service. And instead of being direct, they responded, "Oh, really? That is the perceived American dream. I guess if that's what you think is good, then I suppose you could attempt to do that." Such an elitist, arrogant a-hole. Not to disparage them, but they want to become the next Spielberg or the next Kubrick. The probability of owning a small business is a lot higher than being the next Kubrick. Yet, I am the delusional one for wanting to do something less delusional. But I digress. These people typically are in one part of the category. They might slightly, barely, minusculely be above average smart. The average IQ is 100. They might be 101, 100.5, at the most 102. But they think their IQ is 125 or 140. They might be a little bit witty. They might be clever. They might be quick-witted. They might have a monolithic vocabulary. But they think they themselves are above you. They talk to you like you're one of their children, or they talk to you like you're a dog. Typically on a scale of 1 to 10, they're a 5.5, at max maybe a 6.5. It's like a girl who is a 5.5 or a 6.5. Yeah, if she combs her hair, she puts on a dress and some high heels, she can and prove herself, but she's never going to be a 10. If you're a 6.5 max, 5.5, you can't be asking for the moon. It's like a girl who is a 5.5, 6.5 max saying, I want a man who's 6'12", who owns an entire apartment complex, and who makes trillions of dollars a year, has 6-pack abs, no 8-pack abs, who can lift tons of weight, and can pay for my 50 cars. And it's like, if you look like Angelina Jolie, you look like Halle Berry, okay, you can make those stipulations. But if you're just average looking, you're not going to find a man comparable to that. And that's on elitist. They might slightly be above average, but they're not remarkably above average. Another case in point would be height. I'm 6'1", meaning that I am slightly, minusculely, incrementally taller than the average height. But when I go out to the mall or I go out to the workplace or I'm walking at the park, I don't tower over anybody. I am about average. But that's like me acting like I'm Wilt Chamberlain or Shaquille O'Neal because I'm 6'1". It's like you don't have the goods to back it up. Speaking of the goods to back it up, you have people who are elitist. Now, let me preface myself. I'm not saying I agree with someone like Bill Gates or former President Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, people in Hollywood, LeBron James. I'm not saying I agree with them thinking that they are elite and better than the average person, but I can intellectually understand why they think that. I disagree with their conclusion, but I can agree with their logic leading to that conclusion. Their kids attend different schools than the average person. They don't poison themselves with all of the chemicals and additives that we eat here. They have accessibility we don't have because of the money they generate. They have the admiration of people who kiss their behinds. And when you have that happen to you so often, then you live in an ivory tower. You don't know what it's like working 9 to 5. You are away from the struggle. I can understand why you think you're elite. But if you're working at a 7-Eleven, you're working at a Walmart, I don't want to hear about how you're so damn intellectual and you're so much more intelligent than everyone else. You've got to have the goods to back it up. Now, let me read a little excerpt of something I wrote a few weeks ago as I was pondering this issue. Unelitist. It captures a paradoxical concept. It describes individuals who, despite lacking true expertise or superiority, perceive themselves as part of an elite group. This mindset often leads them to adopt an attitude of superiority over others, even if their knowledge and intelligence do not substantiate this belief. Such people may project competence and intelligence, but their actual understanding may be quite average. It's quite novice, it's quite elementary. If you think you know everything already, then what's the point of learning new things? You're never going to go from a 5.5 intelligent to a 6.5 intelligent. IQ, like height, like your ability to sing, like many things, your immune system, your skin color, it is genetic. You can get better, but everyone has a certain intelligence quota they can reach. If you're a 5.5 and you think you know everything, you're never going to reach your genetic potential of intelligence. What's the point of reading if you already know everything in the book? Or what's the point of listening to an author who studied the topic if you're so intelligent and above them intellectually? This next paragraph further illustrates the point. The more I study, the more I realize what I don't know. Being truly informed involves humbling yourself and understanding that the more you learn, the more you realize you never knew in the first place. The more I learn, first person here, the more I realize what I don't know. There's even topics which I have read about for years. For example, I took it upon myself. I like to learn how systems work. I want to learn how the banking system works, the political system works, the economic system works, because that's all the world is. It's based upon systems. In 2015, I started reading about all the presidents. I went to the local library and I read from George Washington up to Barack Obama, who was president at that time. I started today reading a book about Theodore Roosevelt, he's a man that I greatly admire. He's one of my heroes. But there's things in this book that I did not know about him. I just read the introduction and chapter 1. I'm about to read after I conclude this video. And I'm like, wow, how did I not remember that? How did I not know that? And I understand that even topics that I know a lot about, like medieval history, the Roman Empire, past presidents, there's information that I can ascertain that I did not know in the first place, or I forgot about, and I can store it back in my brain. And that's humbling yourself. But people who think they know everything already, they will never humble themselves. It's like the scientific method. You don't begin with the answer to the question. You don't go to the crime scene and already know the answer. You go backwards. You try to figure out the fingerprints. You try to figure out the location of the suspects. You try to figure out the possible motives. You try to connect the dots. And that's what you're supposed to do when you're trying to learn something, whether it's science, history, economics, anything else. But unelitist elites, they start already thinking they know the answer, and then they look for confirmation bias to back up what they think they already know. Now that I dissected the topic from an intellectual standpoint, I unfortunately have a few people in my family who are like this. They are not particularly remarkable people. They are not particularly intelligent. I'm not going to say that they're dumb. Their IQ is 100, maybe 101, but they're not what you would call a scholar. They're not what you would call a deep philosophical thinker. Part of being intelligent is curiosity. I want to know how things work. Even when I was a young kid, I used to always ask my parents questions. Why? Even to this day, I am a fountain of knowledge. I love reading books, understanding the political system. It's natural. Not everybody's like that, and that's okay. But I would never talk down to somebody, and I would never be condescending to somebody. I think everyone has something to offer, whether it's a man on the street or a man who lives on the tallest building on the street. They all have something to offer. And I will listen to anybody. But unelitist elite, they think they know everything already. This individual, during their prom in high school, they wanted a limo to drive less than 5 miles to the school. And they wanted a super expensive dress. No offense to them, but they don't look like Beyonce. They don't look like Taylor Swift. They don't look like they're walking down the red carpet of Hollywood anytime soon. Neither am I, but I don't think I am. They also call everyone a narcissist and toxic. Most human beings are complex creatures. When you study wars, when you study psychology, when you study all kinds of things, people are multifaceted. It's like peeling back an onion. But simply saying everyone's narcissistic, everyone's toxic means you're a pseudo-intellectual. It means you don't know anything about history. You don't know anything about how the mind works. You've not done your due diligence to study that. But because you watch a TikTok video or because you watch a YouTube video which says this person's a narcissist or this person's toxic, and you already are going to use those patterns of behavior to confirm your bias, that's what you're going to do. That's a common trait. If you hear someone who says everyone's a narcissist and everyone's toxic besides them, they're typically an elitist. Not to belabor the point, which then gives me the right to belabor the point, just like when you say no offense and then you can say the most offensive thing possible, it gives you that right. This is the last point I'm going to make. Another tactic that these unelitist elites use. When you bring up something that you think is valid, they try to act like it's not valid. Case in point, one of these unelitist elites, I was talking about how I don't go to the theater anymore. If I wanted to be lectured, I would watch a documentary. When I go to the movie theater, I don't want to hear about politics. I don't want to hear about trying to make a movement. I want to be entertained. When I'm watching the NFL, I want to be entertained. I don't want to be lectured about politics. If I want to read about politics, I'll go read the Wall Street Journal, or I'll go watch whatever type of news I can find. And then they responded, I just don't watch it. I don't even pay it any mind. Basically saying, hey, dumbass, I'm so intellectual that I don't pay that any mind. Your point is not valid. And it is what it is. But these people should be repudiated. I'm not suggesting you be arrogant to them. What you do is you find a topic that you're well read in, and then you discuss that topic in front of them, and you shut them down. My premise is simple. If you're a regular person, if you're working at Walmart, you're working at Costco, nothing wrong with that. Those people make the country work. Without them, we'd starve. If you're like that, then you better invent a business. Not invent a business, but rather start a business one day. You better win the Nobel Peace Prize. You better do something revolutionary, invent a new drug. You better publish a scholarly book about economics. If you're not going to do any of that stuff, then shut the fuck up and stop talking down to people. Because chances are, I know way more than you'll ever fucking know. And even if I don't, I'm going to read what I don't know, and then I'm going to know more. Because you think you already know everything. I'm going to lap you. Even if genetically you're smarter than me, you're not going to take the time to humble yourself and read. So therefore, by default, I am going to lap you, metaphorically speaking. So you can go fuck yourself. Everybody else, I don't care if you're gay, straight, tall, short, Republican, Democrat, you're cool. But unelitist elite, you can go fuck yourself.